Hi, Adam. Do you think we could start now?
Yeah, we can start. The floor is
Okay.
yours, Nada.
Sorry, let me just quickly introduce you, Nada, and then I'll pass on the floor to you. So thank you everyone for joining the seminar today. I'm happy to introduce you to Dr. Nada Wasi, who is currently a research director at the Pui Pakorn Institute for Economic Research, or PEER, which is under the Central Bank of Thailand. She's an applied econometrician working in the areas of labor economics, health economics, dynamic life cycle model, and consumer choice. Today, she's going to talk about a topic that's very dear to the Malaysian context as well, on the topics of social insurance in the country context that's quite similar to Malaysia, who's facing aging and demographic transition. And so I think there's a lot of interesting lessons that could potentially be relevant for Malaysia as well. So with that, uh, the floor is yours, Nada.
Okay. Thank you so much for the very kind introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me here. So the title today is Willingness to Pay versus Administrative Hurdles, Understanding Barriers to Enrollment in Social Insurance in Thailand. But I will explain the setup in Thailand a little bit more and go off a little sidetrack a little bit sometimes, but I'll try to manage my time. If you have any questions, feel free to ask along the way. Okay. So first, I think I'm just gonna start with the Thailand challenges for social protection provisions. We have very large informal sector, and as everyone know, like when you have informal workers or informal firms, they do not pay taxes. So we have less tax revenue, and at the same time, the government cannot mandate social insurance. Also, we have several social protection schemes in Thailand, but they are quite fragmented. As Danielle suggested, we have aging problems, and all of our public schemes seems to have a fiscal unsustainable part. So in this paper, it's still a working paper right now. So we are writing about 70-80% done. We're hoping to be done before this seminar, but we couldn't. But hopefully it will be posting on our website in the next a couple months. So it's a joint work with Rima Hanna at Harvard, Benjamin Oken at MIT, and Pitawat Punponkul, my colleague at PEER. So this look at the low take-up rate for voluntary insurance schemes around the world. Rima and Ben did several papers looking at this stuff. And then we talk about why is this low take-up rate? Is it so difficult to enroll? Like you have to go to the branch, is it hard to enroll? Or people do not value the insurance? Or the insurance just doesn't have much value? And then it just happened that there is a unique policy experiment in Thailand during COVID. The government want to give out the money, so it's give out a lot of cash incentive. Actually, want to be a cash assistance during the COVID time, but the condition is you have to enroll in the program. Sorry, I think I see a hand.
Yeah, just a small clarification. I wanted to ask, when you mean by people do not value the insurance, are you thinking of people who are, in rational, have made the correct expected values, or is it that they face cash constraints, or I mean, so I'm just trying to understand, what is is it the rational decision people have reached and that's why they don't end up buying the insurance, and that's what you mean by value the insurance? Do they lack information? So how should I think about characterizing people under the second category that you highlighted?
Okay, let me try to answer briefly here, and I'll come back here later. I think this means if you know, even though you know your expected cost, but you may not calculate correctly, that it's gonna be 100. But sometimes you are willing to pay only 80 for that insurance, so you are not you don't care much about the risk, and it could be because you have a cash constraint. Okay, let me come back to this when we get to that paper again if this is not clear. So for this paper, we're going to go on and look at the results of the experiment. We're going to look at enrollment, retention, and plan choice. So just preview the results. So this one, when we ask how effective is the cash incentive in attracting new members, it's a big cash incentive and it actually increased the coverage of informal workers from 6% to 73%. But how long do these workers stay enrolled? It ends up that they only stay for, you know, only not very long time. So after the incentive ends, so they left the program. And given the schemes also offer like 3-tier insurance options, like you pay a different premium, you get different coverage benefits. So we want to look what do chosen choices tell us about their preference. So we also found that those induced to enroll by COVID incentives tend to choose the cheapest option. Okay, let me go on to talk about setting in Thailand. So this is how Thailand looks like. It I don't maybe similar to Malaysia. We got a higher levels of education over time. The graph show you the shares of each education level from 1985 to 2022. So our college level share increased from like 2.7% to about 20%. I think this is still like much lower than developed countries like the US that is like almost 40% of college graduates. So if you look at development literature, you would expect that like, okay, we have higher educated people and higher education people tend to go to formal sector. So you expect that the formal sector would expand over time. But this is not really the cases in Thailand. So we have many formal workers that move to informal sector as they age. So we have access to the social security data. The social security data is for formal worker called Article 33. And each line in this graph is plot of by birth cohort because we only have like 15, 20 years of data when plotting that graph. So we only observe one cohort, like the gray one, 1941 to 1945 for about 15 years. But for any cohort we observe, so this is the first time they enter at age 30, over time they tend to drop out. This is not even their retirement age yet. So only the young people who are like enroll more in social security. This is like much sooner than their retirement age. So despite the higher levels of education over time, the informal sector in Thailand remain large. So this is like by age group. You see that the formal sector is the blue ones, and the green and the yellow ones are the informal sectors. So they are both agricultural sector people, and they are non-agricultural sector, like people who are street vendors or motorbike taxis. So we see that more than half of people in Thailand are still the formal sector. I quickly look and it looks like this is much more than in Malaysia. Please correct me if this is not correct. And this is the estimates from the World Bank on the aging issues. So from the World Bank, it said that this is the years, the line it takes to increase the share of population age 65 or older from 7 to 14%. So for France and the US, France took like 115 years, the US took about 70 years. But if we look at the top, like Thailand, it take 20 years, Malaysia, Indonesia take 20 years as well. But Thailand will get old first because we're gonna get there around 2020. So we're already there now, around 13 or 14% of population are 65 or older, and in 20 years we will have 26%. So So here is our key social protection in Thailand. So it's pretty much divided by being a formal or informal worker. Even though we know that they are sometimes like connected. You can be formal and informal, but the schemes right now still divided by whether you are the formal or informal sector. So the big ones are the one that I make it bold, like the Social Security for Article 33. It's a mandatory, got about 11 million people. Another formal worker schemes are for the government, but it's not many people. Social Security in Thailand, they cover like various types of benefits from health, maternity, until old age income. For the informal workers, the two big ones that are like tax finance are the universal health care is for all Thai citizens, and also old age allowance, all Thai citizens who are not part of the government workers. So these are like it's for everyone age 60 or older. Other voluntary programs like those who used to be in the formal sector or those who would never be in the formal sector, they are, the low take-up rate are very small. So the challenges of these protection schemes. So first, even though we have a lot of schemes, they are quite fragmented and they are operated by different government agency units. So it's a problem because there's no unified national agendas. Sometimes this scheme belong to Ministry of Labor, want to do something, and this scheme by Minister of Finance want to do another thing, but they could be like targeted the same group of beneficiaries and they don't really talk to each other. So this makes our policy a little hard. So in general, our old age income support schemes, they have high coverage because we have a universal old age allowance, which is like basic pension, but people know that are inadequate. And we have social security for formal workers. But again, these schemes like it's quite outdated. Like the scheme started at 1991, but it never adjusts anything. Like the pensionable age is still 55. The maximum taxable earnings has been capped at 15,000 baht since it started. So I think over time, people feel that their income is inadequate because it's only take out 5% of your wage cap at 15K to contribute to Social Security. So we're not going to talk much about that today. We're going to focus about the informal insurance with the low take-up rates. So let me talk about just a couple of pages about my another paper in case you are interested. So that paper would address those aging inadequacy and fiscal constraints. So those ones look at the aging issue and focus on social security and the basic pensions. So those focus on these two schemes and focus on the old age income. So we developed a structural overlapping generation model and collaborating to Thailand's data. So we project the scheme's cost in the long run, assume that it's financed by a VAT increase, and evaluate some reform proposals. Like many political parties would propose that they want to increase, triple increase the basic pension, or like the ILO proposed that Thailand should do a pension tested table rate, like if you have other pension source of income, let's say for every 3 baht, your basic pension should be reduced by 1 baht. So we try to simulate that model, and that key finding is that if you do pensions tested, if you can make it work, it can be more effective in terms of welfare improvement. So that's the sidetrack. So now I'm gonna come back to the main paper of the voluntary social insurance. So as we mentioned earlier, that the informalities means you cannot force people to purchase insurance because you cannot like deduct their money from payroll tax and put it into the social security and force them to have insurance. So most countries would just have used the opt-in system for informal workers. but take-up rate like tend to be low, whether it's like health insurance or other um, social insurance. So in Thailand, it's only about 15% of informal workers who choose to enroll and actively paying contribution to these programs. So here we ask about like why take-up rate is low. So the literature seems to talk about three things. First, administrative hassles, because the enrollment is so difficult, or sometimes there is a weak administrative capacity of the state. I think Banerjee ETAL 2021 paper, they you see a randomized control trial in Indonesia for the subsidized insurance, whether like you gonna subsidize them fully or half subsidized. Also, send someone to help assist you to register for health insurance at your home, and they actually find that um, in Indonesia there is a problem of like the administrative capacities, like more than half of people who wanna enroll in the program cannot do it online because like the name registration database has a problem and that require a visit at the office. For the second reason, so we talk a little already about the willingness to pay, that people don't seem to value the insurance from the products. So in the paper by Finkelstein and Hendren and Shepard, they look at Massachusetts insurance exchange data. So it's a administrative data from one company during the Obamacare year that have subsidized low income from adults and also have claims data, so they know what are the costs to each person, so they can calculate the cost for the enrollee and can see their willingness to pay by, because like for every income level there will be the discrete change in price, so they found that people are actually like they're willing to pay are less than the cost that they claim for the insurers. So this is like quite different from insurance textbook that we think that normally people would be willing to pay higher than the actual fair price because they doesn't want to risk themselves into the income loss situation. And the last one, low value product, it just means that the product is just not good in the actual sense. So do I answer the question that we talked at the beginning? Okay, then let's move ahead. So here we will talk about a unique policy experiment in Thailand. So during COVID lockdown, Thailand distributed large lump sum grants. Or it's either 5,000 baht. I think 1 ringgit is about 7 baht to informal workers. But to get this large transfer, the workers would need to enroll and pay for the government social insurance for the informal workers, which is the Article 40. So it's run by also by the Social Security Office. And we're gonna look at enrollment, retention, and plan choice. So that's the Article 40 is sitting there. So for this one, any Thai citizens age 15 to 65 who are not a member of Article 33, 39, government worker or state enterprise can enroll to this program. So they just limit the age of entry, but once you enroll before you reach 65, you can continue to stay. And there are three options to choose, costing 70, 100, and 300 baht per month. So it's about $2 US dollar, $3 US dollar, and $9 US dollar. So they have several types of benefits. They don't have health benefit because Thailand already have a universal health insurance. So the health benefit would cover by that scheme. here, income loss due to illness. I will explain more in detail later on. So they just compensate some days that you think your income will be lost. Disability, death benefit, retirement saving, child allowance. And to register, you can do it by phone on the Social Security Office website. 7-Elevens, there are a lot of 7-Eleven in Thailand. I think more than 10,000 branches. One supermarket, one big supermarket chain, and agricultural bank that is like in every provinces. And to pay the contribution, the above service counters or automatic deduction from you can pay at those service counter, or you can let the bank deduct from your account automatically, or you can also make an advance payment up to 12 months at a post office. So here is what happened in Thailand during the COVID lockdown 2021. First, the government announced that they're gonna lock down some 13 provinces, which are pink provinces. And this is announced in July 2021. So it say that they're gonna give out 5,000 baht if you register by August the 3rd. But then a little later on, maybe 2 weeks later, they announced that there will be more lockdown province, which is the 16 province, the orange ones. This one, the second group only got 5,000 baht a month. So Bangkok would be somewhere around here in the middle of the pink one. But to be able to get the cash assistance, you need a prompt pay registration. So which is a bank account that tie with your national ID. So with the government would just transfer the money to your bank account. So I think Malaysia also have that fast payment system that you can scan QR code and make that transfer for various P2P or P2B transaction.
Sorry, Nada. There are a
Okay.
number of questions on the chat, and this is our clarification questions about the program. So
Okay.
I'll start with my question. You mentioned about the cost aspect of the social insurance, but could you also speak about how generous the benefits are? For example, the death benefits, the disability benefits, how generous are they? That's the first question. The second question is about the mechanism, and if there's a mandate for either the employers or the digital platforms and the employees. So, for example, gig workers to contribute to the social insurance. So, is there a mandatory component there? And then there's the third question is whether you can withdraw and the pension contribution, for example, and starting at what age? Thank you.
Okay, let me answer I think this is for informal worker article 40 that we are focusing on now, right? So I will have a slide in details later on about the benefit of the death benefit and disability. I can tell you about the withdrawal for your lump sum benefit. It starts at the age of 60. And whether it's mandatory, it's not. So it's all voluntary options. Only the formal worker is voluntary. It's mandatory because you just have a payroll tax that you deduct directly when they pay thoroughly.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the first question we asked, did COVID incentives increase enrollment substantially? So if increase in enrollment is large, so they would suggest that in Thailand, administrative barriers to enrollment are not a major constraint if incentives to enroll are large enough. So we just simply compare the differences in the number of new members during normal pre-COVID period and incentive time. So this is very striking that the Article 40 attract like 6.1 million new members during July and August 2021. So here, before that happened, on average, monthly new member is only 29,000 per month. But just like these 2 months, so it's go out about like 2.9 there, 2.1 here, 1.1 here, add up to 6 million. And then there was no new enrollment afterwards. So if we look at the share of coverage, so it feels like almost everyone who was eligible, 73%, enrolled to the program. So we think suggests that administrative hurdles do not prevent enrollment. So we can see that the graph is very big. If we run the different indifference control for harm and province fixed effect, and it will reduce a little bit to about 68%. The second question is, do those who are induced to enroll stay enrolled? If not, suggests that enrollment was only to claim the incentive, not their interest in the insurance program. So again, we're gonna compare the difference in retention rates during the normal time and the incentive time. So here we look at the retention results. So the black line are just the pre-COVID time. We just picked 2016. Other years have a similar pattern. So the red lines are those joining during the incentive times. So we can see that for the red line, by 6 months, only 24% left, and by 12 months, only 13% left. Compared to the normal time, it's about 53 and 43%. So what could explain the differences in retention rates? So it's a administrative data, so we don't have a lot of demographics. But what we have is their age, their gender. So we know that those joining during the incentive times, on average, they are younger. So they are 43 years old. Normal time, they are 47 years old. And they have a higher proportion of males, 46 versus 40%. I just switched the number, sorry. But here we say that even though we try to weigh, so they have similar composition as the normal time, but the results are still similar. The red one is the unweighted result. The blue one is the weighted results. It's only go up a little. So far, for the first question, is it effective to attract new members? Yes, very effective, from about 6% per month to about 6% coverage of the informal worker to 73%. So obviously, Thailand doesn't have a administrative capacity problem like Indonesia that we talk about. And now we know that people know about this scheme, so it's not a awareness problem. But then, what people doesn't stay over time? So they drop out very quickly. After 1 year, only 13% left. And also, the difference in retention rates cannot be explained by observed characteristics. So this suggests that they may not value insurance, but that could be something else as well. So the next question is, we try to use to see whether their plan choice show that value insurance differently. Shall I stop here for questions?
Ananda, yes, I think there are active set of questions in the chat. So the first question is again about the incentives. So the incentives are like, so Rajesh, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, I can. I mean, so no, hi. I just wanted to ask, that maybe I misunderstood, but from a quick look at it, it seemed like your incentives are like 50 months worth of your premium, right? If you take the premium to be 70, that's a large one. You could imagine people are willing to jump through several hoops to do it. So that conclusion that, hey, there's administrative burdens are not at all important. I just wanted to ask why did you go for such a large number rather than something which seems like more normal to test your willingness to kind of walk to the 7-Eleven or whatever it might be, right? So that was, I was just trying to understand what was the motivation behind this number that you come up with. Daniel, should I hold on with the next? You'll just read out the next questions.
Please go ahead. Go on ahead. You have
And the
another
second
question that
aspect,
was on.
and the second aspect that I wanted to ask about was, you said that these differences in dropout rates cannot be explained by observed characteristics, but besides gender and age, there are other observed characteristics. And if there are, could you just tell us which ones are these?
Mhm.
Rajesh, you had another question on clarification on the trust in the government, or that money will not disappear. You just want to clarify.
Okay. Yeah, sorry to pile on so many questions. So the other thing that I wanted to ask was, going back to your mechanism, like the explanations as to why insurance take up in the first place might have been so low. Like, how do people think about what would happen to the money? Is that a kind of any kind of concern? Like, hey, the financial crisis happened in 97, 98. You said state capacity is low. Do they believe in 30 years? I don't expect the government to be able to pay me my money back at all, and so I'd rather keep it under my mattress, basically.
Thanks. Why don't you answer those questions first, and I'll call on Alicia if she wants to come in with her questions.
Okay, so let me try. So the first question is like, why is the incentive is 5,000 baht? That's like 50 times. So this is, I think actually it wasn't a, a plan, or and it's not me, it's the government to, it's not me decide a study to do it. So this is something that happened during the COVID time. And I think the government want to give the money to the informal workers anywhere to be the cash assistance programs. So I think like, given that they're gonna give out money, so maybe they try to get people to come enroll in case it works, and they also know more information about their informal workers, because like right now they don't have full information about informal workers in Thailand. So I think that's the reason of like, yeah, but I agree, if you really want to find the willingness to pay to test those things out, you need you know 70, you could try 500, 200, and to see the range. If you vary the price, then you trace out the real willingness to pay for people. For the observed characteristics, unfortunately, it's like the administrative enrollment data. So we don't have a lot of characteristics like education or income or other things. We could try something like we can try to construct from the pattern of the data. I think we know location, and we haven't done it, but you asked, so I was just thinking, you if you could think it's the network of people, and if their community joy, they tend to stay. We can try to like construct that kind of variables from the data, like percent people who still remain in the program during that month. Maybe yes. And the last question, could it be other things like, I would say it's, you would call it trust, right, of the government. If you pay the insurance, would the government be able to pay you in when you are in trouble? I I I agree, and I think the literature, like the JEL paper by Banerjee on social protection in developing world, I think it's forthcoming. Also address that issues that, okay, there are also like that trust issue, and they found that if people actually like experience the insurance, even this insurance or other scheme, those people tend to trust the government more and will remain in the program. Yes.
Thanks, Dana. So there's another question from Alicia. Alicia, do you want to comment on this? And also maybe if you don't mind giving a little bit of context on the Malaysian context, and what are the challenges in motivating take up from Malaysia? So let me see if Alicia's, oh, there she is. I don't think we can hear you, Alicia. Or maybe Nada, you could go ahead, and then when Alicia's fixed our audio issue, she can come in.
Okay. Yeah, please feel free to drop me anytime. Okay, so we're just gonna go and look at the choices right now, so I can come to the benefit we were talking about at the beginning. So this one is got three options. So option one, as we talked, only 70 baht per month. Option two, 100 baht. Option three, 300 baht. And they provide income loss compensation. OP is the stand for outpatient and inpatient. So let's say if you are sick and if you are going to see a doctor and the doctor say you don't need to rest, um, you don't need to be admitted to the hospital, but you have to rest more than 3 days. This scheme will pay you 200 baht per day with doctor certificate. If you need admissions, you get 300 baht per day. If you rest more than less than 3 days, then you only get 50 baht per time. And the disability, you get 500 to 1,000 baht per month. So it's depending on your contribution period. It requires at least 6 months of contributions. So option one and two, they will provide disability benefit for 15 years. Option three will provide a lifelong benefit. And also in case of death, there are benefits. So funeral grants, option one and two are 25K. Option three is double. But this is a little strange because it's got a big funeral grant. So it doesn't have a top up death benefit where this option one and option two actually get about 33, add up 25 and 8,000 together. And the key thing that I think people would see is a different one is that the old age benefit. That option one, you don't have it. But option two is you pay from 70 baht, you pay 100 baht. But for each 100 baht that you pay, you get 50 baht back plus interest. Option three, you pay 300 baht and you get 150 baht back. And another difference for option three is that you also have child allowance that it will give you 200 baht per month for children aged up to 6 years old for two children. But it's not that you are like pregnant and you apply to enroll to the program. It's require 24 months of contributions. And the schemes like try to take care of the irregular income of informal workers. So it actually doesn't require you to contribute every month, but to be eligible for this benefit, it actually has some requirement period, and it's not like this strict that I wrote. It's actually like required 3 out of 4 months, or dead it would require like 6 months out of the past 12 months. So here is the option shares over time. So option two has the largest share for all periods. Option one had the highest share only during the incentive time, which is you can see here that it's by up. Option one is the green one, option two is the red, option three is the blue. But if we look at the previous slide, you see that option two, you feel that it's only 30 baht more than option one. The cost is 70 versus 100, but you get 50 baht back if you can wait until you reach age 60. So it seems to make sense that people pick option two. The only thing with option one is it's the cheapest option. Also, if we plot by age, the previous slides plot by time. So if you spread them into age, we also see that it seems to make sense that option three that provides child allowance, it's got higher share for people who are aged like 25 to 45. Option one in the normal time is very small, it's like less than 1%. But even though during the incentive time, option one also decreased with age. Because you know that with these benefits like sickness, disability, or death, it's a value more for older people. So here we try to just think about the insurance demand model. So we think that, okay, so if we think about a simple model, a consumer may have considered a two-stage choice problem. First, they can consider all three options and assess which plan is the best, and then compare the utility derived from choosing the best plan to enrollment cost, and decides whether to join the schemes. So put it in a little math. So on the first step that you think you're gonna buy it, so you compare choices among the three options. As a standard discrete choice model, you assume utility function is linear and you choose the one that is maximize your utility. So here, the EB is the expected benefit, the EP is the expected premium, alpha and gamma are utility weights, and the epsilon are the unobserved components. Normally it's viewed as like known to consumer, but not to the researchers. And so it's just the probability demand model that the consumer I will choose option J if the utility from option J is greater than other two utilities. So utility is the net utility of benefits and price. And if you assume that the error term is distributed as IID extreme values, then you get McFadden's conditional logic choice probably in a simple closed form function. You can also think about unconditional demand using the data of people who don't buy any insurance. So after knowing her optimal choice, then the consumer may then compare the net benefit of the best plan with the cost of sign up the program. So let me make a little side note. The model looks very simple, but and recent work on discrete choice models, they are a lot more fancy, complicated than this. They normally allow random coefficients for alpha and gamma to capture heterogeneity in preferences. But to do that, to capture heterogeneity in preference, normally you would require more variation in attribute and choices and have a panel data. For example, like if you want to know people put value on some attributes or some of the bundle, like death benefits, then if you have multiple times of the data and you have variation in price, like price increase, but you still always choose the option that provide high death benefit, then you can observe that, okay, they put a lot, some people put more weight on alpha, the death benefit. Or on the other hand, you see that the other people, whenever the price increase, they switch the plan. So we know that they put more weight on price. But in our data, people just like pick only one choice over time, and the schemes itself have been the same, like the attributes. The only thing different is that they have this like big grant incentive 5,000 to enroll in the program. So we cannot do much with the model. Also, we also have, if we want to try to do estimate that model, we also have to approximate the expected benefits. So we try to calculate the probabilities of like people being disabled, people getting sick, admission to like inpatient or outpatient from like various survey and administrative data using fertility data. And so we know the probability that they're gonna get benefit from this program based on their age and gender. But also the contribution time also determines benefit eligibility. So we have to take the stand of what should we do with the time people they expect to enroll in the program when they do it. So we decided for now we're gonna saying that people do not know their future path of their idiosyncratic time in the program, but they would expect similar contribution time as everyone else. So we're going to calculate benefit by using our weighted average from the normal time distribution of how long people stay in the program. So here is one example like that we try. So we took the benefit, calculate at 36 months first, but at the end we have to calculate it for like many discrete months, and then we do it averaged. So here we do is for male on the left, female on the right. Each line that you see is going up is the expected benefit combined of all those 7 types of benefits. So the beta here is the discount rate. So you can see that the benefit for option 1, option 2, option 3, they are higher. But if you do not risk, if you are risk neutral, you only so the vertical lines are the expected cost. You only see that it's worth it only when you are older. Let's say for option 2. For the younger people, if our approximation of benefit is correct, they need to value the insurance to buy the insurance. But also like this calculation also depend on our assumption of discount rate. So if we assume that people have a higher discount rate, lower discount rate like 0.97, so this will lower the benefit of option 3, 2, and 3 a lot because it give our pension at the age of 60. So it means that people don't really value that like they get a 50% back of their contribution time at the age of 60. But for the option 1, the line would be the same. So first, we try to look at the take-up rate and expected net price, which is the expected price minus the premium. So on the top line, we try to show that, oh, in the normal time, we seem to see something that looks like a demand curve. You see negative relationship when the price go up, people buy less. The horizontal axis is the take-up rate. But you don't see such a relationship during the incentive time. And also, we try to estimate the conditional logic model, so just the coefficient of those 2 variables that we calculated. And then we calculate the marginal willingness to pay, which is the ratio of these 2 coefficients. Like it said that how much you are willing to pay for an increase in 1 baht value of the benefit. So if this is the case, the average that people pay here in the normal time would be 1.75 value, but during the incentive time, it's only 1.08. So we can see that people have different trade-offs that we can already guess from their option shares. Okay, so I only have a couple more to go. So the other things I didn't mention earlier is that there is this National Savings Fund in Thailand as well. It's only provide a match contribution for informal workers, so it doesn't have other types of benefits. But the government has this constraint that they want to subsidize only either scheme. So if you are, because it's a match contribution and it's a subsidized program for both schemes. So if you are option 1 that you don't have the lump sum benefit at old age, you can be a member of National Savings Fund as well. But if you are option 2 and option 3, you cannot be a member of the National Savings Fund. So we would just wonder whether these people who are choosing option 1, they are NSF members. And then they choose because they have to choose it, or they just really want to choose it. Actually, we don't really have a definite answer on that because the Social Security Office doesn't collect that information. And the National Savings Fund themselves only check when people first join the scheme. So normally, but doesn't check after that whether after you are the member and then you went on to join the Social Security option 1. So what we do is that, okay, maybe we can try to assume that, okay, if we are going to drop random people who choose option 1, how our results will change. So if we randomly drop about 40% of those choosing option 1, then we got the marginal willingness to pay estimate a little bit more from 1.08 to 1.26, which is like sort of expected. So here are the conclusions. So first, a strong cash incentive can attract a very large number of enrollments, but it's very strong. The effect was only temporary though, with only 13% staying in the scheme after a year. And looking at the data now, only 77% left. The lower retention rate during the incentive time compared to the normal time cannot be explained by observed characteristics. And the option choice also partly revealed that workers who joined during the incentive time value the insurance less. On the other hand, to think about this is that if we think these people already know about these schemes and they are the one who choose not to join during the normal time, so we sort of know that they are the one who do not value the insurance. So why low take-up rate? At least for the Thailand case, we know that we don't have administrative capacity problem and not awareness problem, but likely it's pretty unwilling to pay, at least for this bundle of plans, or do not understand the insurance well, or they do not trust the government that they're gonna get the money back. Or the other one that I didn't write is like they would think that the government may come up with cash assistance anyway when they are needed, because that happens very often in Thailand. And this is the second question is what we just discussed earlier. What is the large cash incentive be worth to boost the enrollment? So if we think about the lower retention rate, even with the low retention rate, like 13% or 7% now, those who enroll during the incentive time still account for about 50% of current active contributors right now. So it's matter, but 5,000 baht seems to be too much. It would be nice that we have variation in the incentives to see how it works. So it's probably too much in the normal time. But as I said, that during the pandemic, the government already planned to give out the cash assistance. And my last word is that the voluntary insurance is challenging. So we probably still need more research on informal workers' preferences. And okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nana. Thanks for the very interesting presentation. So we have a couple more questions. So let me first call on Alicia and see if her audio is fixed now. And then there's Bolaji and then Agustin. Okay, still no. So why don't I read the question? Do you have a gauge on how much the monthly contribution to social insurance is as a share of average informal worker income?
Contribution, you mean like for the average share of informal worker income, like what is the 70 or 100
Yes.
baht contribute to the share?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think our poverty line is close to 3,000 baht now. I think poverty line is about a 10% time.
Okay.
So I think it's quite small.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good. And then why don't I call on Bolaji and then Agustin?
I think my question, I'm just thinking about the low take-up rate. So I'm just thinking, the people in Thailand, do they have this mentality that
I'm sorry, could you speak a little louder?
All right. So I said, I just want to know regarding the low take-up rate of the Social Security insurance. Is it that there are some people that rely on families as their social security? So if that is true, then that would partly explain the take-up, why the take-up rate is low. So I'm just trying to think, is it possible? Do you have such situation in Thailand?
Okay, so I think it's partly true, and not only like we have like family that some has social security, but it's not a lot. It's like the benefit from social security in Thailand is not that much. But I think um, two things that are easier to understand, like the health benefit. Thailand already has the universal health care that take care of that. So even if they don't have this insurance, I think health benefit is something people care, and we have the universal coverage. Old age pension, um, we have a basic pension that provides 600 to 1,000 baht a month per month, and political parties has been like campaigning to like double, triple increase these payments. So maybe people would expect that they can rely on this um health coverage and old age pension benefits. I think other things it's maybe hard to imagine like or calculate like would you be disabled? Would you be die very soon? Yeah, and in the past we also have like family networks. So I think Townsend has a paper of like informal insurance in Thailand, sort of you help each other and you can rely on each other. But we are moving to urban like style living a little more now.
Okay, so a few more questions, Agustin, Rajesh, and then yeah.
Thank you very much, Daniel, and thank you very much, Nada. My question is a little bit out of the scope of your research, but I'm a little bit curious about this cash incentive. And my question specifically is whether there have been efforts to exploit complementarities across programs. I'm saying this because I know there is this upcoming digital cash transfer program in Thailand that basically gonna give not 5,000 bahts but 10,000, right? To around 70% of the population. So is there any ongoing discussion on why not also use this cash transfer to as an opportunity to start enrolling population into this kind of programs? Because I mean, we know that these digital cash transfer programs will be already costly because it's not target at all. But at least if you can use it as an opportunity to enroll people in other kind of programs, I think at least the benefit will be higher. I would like to listen your point on this.
So why don't I call on Rajesh and yeah
Okay.
first, and then we can collate these questions, and then Ada could respond quickly because we're at time. Rajesh? Also cannot hear you now. No. Okay, why don't I read the question then? So the question from Rajesh is, did I get that correctly, that your old age allowance is 50% of your contribution? Okay, and then, yeah, I don't know if you want to come in and ask your question. If not, I'm just going to read the question. What about the level of financial literacy in explaining low take-up rates? Does Thailand has data on financial literacy? So these are all the questions. Over to you, Nada.
Okay, so let me try to answer all the questions. So the first one, Agustin asked about the digital wallet. So if anyone hasn't heard about this, like it's been a political campaign for the current government right now that it wanna give 10K to people to boost the economy, basically. But it wanna give it in like digital wallet. So it's been going on. So now I think the program hasn't been finalized yet in terms of the criteria, but I think it will be targeting a little rule out like people with income, very high income, very large deposit in the bank account. But it's only like rule out the very rich, the high end. Whether it's talk about like complementary or let people enroll in this kind of voluntary program, no, they don't, but they try to get people to be our like formal businesses. like because these programs like it's gonna be digital wallet and you can use it like between you and the suppliers, but you cannot take the money out. You have to use it again, and then the one that can take the money out would be the one who register in a VAT system. So I think they were looking of in making expanding the formal sector in that sense. So that's the first question. The second one is the OH allowance, 50% of the contributions. Okay, sorry, I may use similar words. So OH allowance in Thailand is the tax finance program. It's 600 to 1,000 baht, depends on your age. You don't have to contribute anything. Anyone age 60 or older would get that money. For the Article 40 that we discussed today, yes, you get the OH lump sum benefit 50% of your contribution. If you choose option 2, pay 200 baht, stay for 2 months. At the age of 60, you get 100 baht back plus some interest. Number 3, level of finance literacy. I think we have some surveys, but I don't have the good numbers in my head right now. But I think we also still have like that problems. Like now we have a lot of like fraud coming in, with digital payment, and people cannot distinguish whether this is a fraud text message or whether the real message. So I'll look into that number. So I think that's a good point. Thank you.
Thanks. So I have one last question, and this somewhat circles back to the question that Rajesh and Agustin asked earlier. You know, the cash incentive was 5,000 baht, and it could cover like 50 months of premium. Is it within the realm of possibility for the government to, instead of paying them a cash incentive and then people not staying in the social insurance program after a while, what if the government just pays directly their premiums for 50 months and then see like whether people are going to stay instead of like, trying to voluntarily expect them to sign up?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that will be a nice experiment and feasible way that you do it in the future too, or at least pay maybe 50% subsidized of the premium. I think that was the Banerjee paper in 2021 in Indonesia. So they got like they try full subsidized and then half subsidy, and maybe they get 18% enrollment up. But if they promise like subsidization for a year, then you see the people drop at the second year as well.
I see. Okay, so we are 5 minutes over time. So why don't we, let me see if there are one or two final questions before we close. I don't think going once, going twice. I don't think there are any questions. So, well, thank you very much, Nada, for this excellent presentation. We are very much happy to hear some of the innovations in increasing social insurance, and it seems to be the case that it's a difficult task in most contexts, and there's more research needed in this direction. And it will be great to hear more about your experiences in Thailand. If there are any updates, we would love to hear them. And in the meantime, Adam has kindly projected a QR code for the participants. So if you could just take a quick scan of that QR code and then fill in the survey, it would greatly help our future seminars as well. With that, thank you, everyone. Don't forget to scan the QR code and fill in the survey. Thank you again, Ada, for the excellent presentation.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.